computer. Here we go. Hello, my name is Kimberly Poe. I'm the Children and Young Adult Library Consultant with the Connecticut State Library, and today we're going to do a bit of a summer reading Q&A. We're going to take some of your questions. We're going to ask you some of our own. So that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be kind of a freestyle moment, so please use the chat liberally. A lot of what we do today is going to result from the questions that you ask us. And by us, I mean me, like I said, Kim Poe, Maria Bernier, our data coordinator is here with us today, as well as Ashley Scar, our community engagement consultant and adult services consultant. Got it. I'm gonna be able to sort of let that roll off the tongue one day very soon. So I am gonna go ahead and do a bit of a screen share here. And I have a very super simple PowerPoint that I put together, but we're not even going to follow this. So again, like I said, we're doing the summer reading Q&A. When you all registered for this, you saw that there was a link to a Google document where you could add questions for me to just sort of fire through and answer. But I do recognize that some of your questions might be triggered by what we say here today. So again, please use the comment, the chat feature very, very liberally here. So the first question that we got, actually it was the second question that we got, but I'm going to do it first because it's just kind of me reiterating stuff that you probably see a lot of in the listservs. The question was, for those of us who are foggy with COVID memory, is it possible to receive the 2021 CSLP manual if we did not submit last year's stats? And the answer to that is no. Now, I do recognize that we say that a lot, but maybe we haven't properly explained why. Hi, everyone. I'm just sort of seeing the highs in the chats. So I want to explain why. And for those of you who know, I've been with the state library for about 1.5 years. Maria, feel free to jump in, because at one point before you were data consultant, you were the LSTA coordinator, so you really understand the back end of that. So the state of Connecticut, DLD, is able to purchase CSLP membership and CSLP manuals for the libraries of Connecticut with IMLS funds. So it is not with money from the state of Connecticut that we are paying for this. It is with federal funds that we are able to purchase the manuals. I also would like to let you know, purchase for library membership is one purchase. That is one invoice that I get and pay. Manuals are a completely separate purchase because we tell them how many we want. So at the end of a calendar year, IMLS, federal year, at the end of a time period, IMLS wants us to report on the outcomes of this money that they gave us. We can only report on the outcomes that we are given by you all. So we don't give the summer reading manual to someone who has not given us information that we can report back to IMLS. It is not just the Division of Library Development that wants this information because we are trying to be better librarians for you all. It is IMLS because they need to know what you all did with their funds. If that is not making sense, or if anyone would like clarification, please go ahead and type that into the chat. Maria, is there anything that you would like to add to that with your knowledge of LST funds and IMLS?
Yes, thank you, Kim. When we have reported in the past on the summer reading program, we have only been able to report outputs, so numbers. We've only been able to report the number of people who signed up and the number of pages that they read, or the number of hours they read, or the number of minutes they read, you know, all the possible permutations. But it doesn't indicate really the impact of the program. And what Kim is working with now is really transitioning to something that is more impactful in terms of evaluating outcomes for the summer reading program. And that's going to be a big help in terms of reporting to LSTA about what we're doing with the money they give us. So it's really more about impact and outcome versus the numbers and the outputs. And that's a big driver for the change.
Thank you, Maria. And I see we've got a question here from Chrissy at Derby Neck. As a new librarian, how would I know if I submitted last year's stats? So I can tell you. I will make a note right now to sort of go through and send you a message. Chrissy from Derby Neck. But in the past, so this is another reason for another change that we've made. In the past, all of the data, for those of you who are kind of old hats at this, it used to be a Survey Monkey, right? You'd go to the Survey Monkey, you'd fill it out, but you didn't get anything back from Survey Monkey just to remind you 9 months down the road that you did in fact submit that data. Last year, we started having people submit the data through an Excel spreadsheet, not only so that we can be on par with the data that's submitted to Maria. So anyone who uses Maria's spreadsheet, you'll see like the colors or this, like it's all very similar because we want everything to kind of be cohesive. But also this gives you a paper trail, right? So someone will have in their inbox that they submitted the summer reading data, but with SurveyMonkey, like nothing existed. There were no checks and balances. So Chrissy, I will email you after this. If I get caught up in something before the end of the day, please just send me an email reminder tomorrow and I'll be happy to check on that. And if you want, I can even send you the data. I can send you the numbers so that you can see what happened. So let's go to our next slide. So this was a question that I'm very glad someone proposed. Would we please discuss the requirements of the summer reading patron survey, which is our newest addition to the data that we're going to be asking for you? And they specifically asked, will libraries distribute and collect the results? And the answer is yes. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep answering these. So yes, we are asking you, Derby Neck, West Hartford, Stonington, we're asking you all to hand out these patron surveys and collect the data for the very real fact that like we aren't there, so we can't, like I don't know who to give it to, so just sort of for practical reasons. And then, can it be shared online and in print? Yes, you can give out that patron survey and collect the data from that patron survey via paper if that works best for you and your community, or in print if that works best for you and your community. And I will show you quickly some of what we've set up to allow this to be as seamless as we can make it. But you all may know that we are going to have an in-depth, deep dive into the all of the new reporting features for summer reading on the 25th, where Maria will also be joining us, and maybe Ashley too if you want to come, where Maria will also be joining us because I pulled a lot of this from her. A lot of this is just straight up copied from what Maria did and tweaked to fit our needs. And then the third part of this question was, how will the answers be used by the state library? So let's go into a few things, and we're about to leave this PowerPoint like I said we would. So this is a screenshot of a page that I'm about to show you. We have made an entirely separate LibGuides for summer reading. At one point, it was embedded into all of the other children and YA material. We have pulled it out because it deserves to be pulled out. And you will see that there is a whole host of things that we are giving you. Let me get out of this and just go straight into that, right? Let me go on ahead. I'm doing a stop share, yep, and then I'll reshare because I am a goober and didn't need to make it this complicated. But let me go, let's just share the whole screen, shall we? I think I can do that. Yep, here we go, okay. So that's just attendance from today. Let's go into, here we go. All right, so this is, can you all see this? Everyone can see the DLD? Okay, so this is when you use our LibGuides at CT State Library DLD, this is where it takes you. And we have pulled out an entire summer reading page. It used to be stuck up here in Children's and YA Services. We have now made summer reading its own section where there's a whole host of things that there just isn't time to get into today unless someone has a specific question about it, seeing as how this is the Q&A, and then we can go into that. So we have made a reporting page, again, super reminiscent of what anyone who has utilized Maria's resources is familiar with. we have given you the annual summer report instructions with hyperlinks and things like that, including the deadline, which is October 1st. Now that I've kind of settled into this position, for those of you who were here, you know, I started at the end of 2019, August of 2019, and then we had a COVID summer. So now things are kind of beginning to get into a routine for me, and I hope to build up that routine for you all. So our target is the first Friday of October, which this year just happens to fall on October 1st as our deadline. So we've got a PDF for instructions that I will kind of let you go into, a patron survey, and the annual summer report. So let's just go on into the patron survey very quickly. There is a video that exists that I originally did for the children's YA annual meeting that sort of went into how and why we chose the questions for this survey and kind of all of that. But so this is telling us how to use the survey. Basically, however you can get the answers to this survey is good enough. Whether you want to hand them out on paper, whether you want to send them out with take and makes, whether you want to make a Google form. I can't decide for you because all of your libraries are different, all of your communities are different. It might be another COVID summer, we're not entirely sure yet. So this is a Word document that can be edited. You can add your library's name and logo. This was created as a Word document on purpose. We are splitting everything up into these various age groups that are the way IMLS breaks them down. So that's why we did this. And then the questions that we are going to be asking are the ones you see here. They're statements more than questions, and we want to get the data, and this is again that outcome-based information that Maria was talking about that IMLS really wants. So did our patrons feel welcome at the library? Did they enjoy taking part in activities offered by the library? And I would like to direct you to the language that was very specifically used. Activities offered by the library, be it inside of the library, at the green, run by the library, on the library's Facebook, on the library's Instagram. So we worded as many of these questions as we could in a way to accommodate the different types of summer programs you all may be having based off of where we are with COVID. I learned something because of the activities and programs offered by the library. So offered by the library, not offered in the library. Please note that we have added activities and programs. So for those of you who sat through some of Maria's workshops, you know that there is a difference based off of the IMLS definition, which is not our definition. We didn't do it, they did it. But I've included both of those. So if your summer does nothing but take and makes all summer, like, that's okay. If they do nothing but pre-recorded, pre-recorded story times programs or whatever that folks watch on their own, like, that's okay. We tried to accommodate that. I got help from the library, whether they emailed in a reader's advisory and then were able to pick up curbside a bunch of books. We really tried to make this as COVID specific as possible. Now, a library reached out to me and asked about making some adjustments to this. In particular, the I Learned Something, they asked if it was okay that they put in this document, for example, a new fact about an animal, a new joke, because they said that sometimes their children might not realize that they did learn. Absolutely. This was given to you as a Word document for you to go in and make additions and changes. The one thing that we ask is that you don't get rid of any of these questions. If there is some type of output data that you would like to collect for your own uses, add another question in there. Go right on ahead and do that. We strongly encourage it, actually. This is just the information that we are trying to gather, not, you might want to know something extra. That same library that reached out pointed out the question up here if I felt welcome at the library, which is the only one that isn't COVID specific. And I did ask them to not change the question. If they wanted, add something else, maybe do sort of a line through in the format changes if their library is completely closed to the public. And the reason that I want to keep this is for the sake of longevity. right? So 2021 might be another COVID summer, but like, knock on wood, 2022 won't be, 2027 won't be, 2030 won't be. And we want to have the longevity of data so that we can measure what this looks like now and what this looks like years in the future. So I'm going to pause really quick and wait to see, are there, oh, here we go. Okay. There means you don't necessarily sign up for Read Squared, but do participate in other summer programs. So for question 3, does that include all of these programs? Question 3. Are you asking about like literal question 3? This is the first time I participated in summer reading. It doesn't matter about Read Squared. If you're asking literally about question 3, whatever your summer reading program looks at. So that's sort of the balance that we walk, the tightrope that we walk up here at DLD. We have to try to come up with questions and formats to accommodate all 191 libraries, not including branches and bookmobiles. So if your library doesn't use Read Squared, whatever you use, a game board, bingo boards, scavenger hunts, whatever you use and whatever you call summer reading, that's what we're asking. I hope that answered that question, Erica. If not, please feel free to clarify for me. But the reason that we are beginning to look at this stuff in the patron survey as opposed to minutes read and books read is because you all do it differently. You do it in ways that work for your library, and we want to encourage that. I mean, about the kids who participate in programs but aren't registered for the reading program. We would start off like this. We would start off with something that I don't have a pre-designated answer for. Do you count it, Erica? Do you count it? So here's the deal. We are counting, our count is just sort of depends on what you at Farmington do. So when you submit the summer reading information to me, when you submitted the summer reading information to me last year, and we did have a question on there of how many kids participated in summer reading, would you have counted them? If you would have counted them, then give that to me. Because I don't really know what your program looks like, it's hard for me to decide that for you. But if all you, Erica at Farmington, care about is that they participated, whether they signed up or not, if you can get those numbers, like if you have a way to give that to me, then do it, go for it. We're trying to sort of get less caught up in the nuances of some of this because sometimes people just didn't sign up for the thing, like whatever. So I'm gonna sort of back up and go to, and Erica, again, if you need more clarification, please go ahead and do that again, and I will see you. Francis, if I do a story walk around town and we have a QR code and a survey at the end, would you like us to use these questions? I think that would be great. So what these questions are actually evaluating is your whole summer program. So that's why if you scroll up, and I didn't read this to you, I'm sorry, but if you scroll up and read this, one of the suggestions that we offer is that you start to share this survey a couple weeks into your program. So if your summer reading program is going to be 8 weeks long, maybe around week 2 or 3, so that people can have had time to formulate an opinion. If you are going to offer that story walk the 3rd week of your summer reading program so that people can evaluate not only that particular program, but everything that led up to it, absolutely, because then you're starting to get those answers sooner. Like the sooner you start to collect this information, the more information that you'll have to report at the end of the summer. I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't, feel free to ask for another clarification while I keep scrolling. Okay, I see some agreements. I see some yep, I do's. Yes, I count them. So
and
perfect.
Kim, if I can chime in too, I think we're also using program in 2 different ways. There's the IMLS definition of program, which I'm trying to get everybody to come around to, which is, a planned event. It's happening live in the moment. There's library and patron interaction, but it's kind of a single event versus your summer reading program, which is the same word, but which is, a multi-week summer reading extravaganza kind of thing. So Kim's program evaluation form here is about the extravaganza summer reading evaluation versus an individual program event evaluation. So these are kind of the overarching questions. And if you did want to ask some questions individually about specific programs like performers or story walks or anything else you do, that's great data for you guys, particularly if you're trying to develop more of those things or decide if you're going to hire that person again. So that's really great data after every single kind of workshop like we do. But in terms of the whole summer reading thing, this is what those new questions are geared toward, if that helps.
It does. And I want to ask Francis, and not to like call you on the spot, Francis, but Francis in particular, I think what Maria just said, I hope that answers your question. So you're welcome to use these questions to evaluate the story walk that you may use in May, but these questions are to evaluate an entire summer reading program, because remember, IMLS funds are going into the running of this program, and we want to report back on the outcomes of those funds. Okay, cool, great. So now I'm going to close out of that. So that's there. So that was a patron survey. And so then I'm going to show you, this is just a little sneak peek. We will dive super deep into this and the supplemental materials on the 25th, but just to show you that it's here. Again, deadline October 1st. Again, if you don't fill it in and send it to me by the deadline, I cannot grant you access to the CSLP manual. I'm just going to keep repeating this so that we hear it in our dreams. So to compensate for these changes and adjustments and sort of this new direction for summer reading, we have made changes to this form even from last year when we migrated from SurveyMonkey to Excel. One of the first things that we changed, which is my favorite, oops, I made the chat really big. One of the first things that we changed, which is my favorite, is that now there's a drop-down box for you to select your libraries from, because everyone calls their library something different. I learned that on accident. So we do have a drop-down, so now you just kind of select from the list where your library is. Thank you, Maria's just shared in the chat the registration. Some folks sort of ran into issues of wanting to type in certain spots and getting let's see if I can get the message to pop up. Getting this message saying that the sheet is protected. You don't need a password. What that means is that you were just accidentally trying to type in a space that we don't want you to type in. That's all that is. So you'll see that there's a lot of drop downs in here. We wanted to make this as simple as possible. Anytime you see a little red caret, that's because I put a little message in there to help clarify the question. So always take a look at that. For example, the question 5.3, how many programs and activities did you run this summer for children 0 to 5? Remember, we're breaking it down by IMLS's age breakdowns. If you don't break your summer reading program down that way, just do the best you can. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer if you do 0 to 6 instead of 0 to 5. Like, no one's just do the very best you can. These are dictated by IMLS. But so you'll see I have a message here that says total number of in-person, live, virtual, pre-recorded, self-guided. So it's just a message, like, we want all of that. Give me all of it for this one answer. And it's obviously going to be the same little caret for all of the ages here. So then we normally do ask this, did you use Read Squared? Did you use the CSLP manual? Because again, I use the data here to decide how many access codes to purchase of the, how many access codes to purchase for you all, because not everyone uses it. We don't want to buy something that's not going to be used. No, this is, I got a question. Is this just for libraries participating in Tales and Tales? Nope. This is for libraries participating in summer reading. So whatever it is that you're doing, I know there was a town last year, the year before, it was their town's like centennial, like 100 and something birthday, and they wanted to gear their summer reading program to honor that. They still sent their numbers. I still wanted it because the last answer to this one big question that we were kind of given was, what is the state going to do with that information? And I will show you that soon. Go ahead, Maria.
Chrissy also has a question in the chat for the how many programs questions. Are we counting individual instances of recurring programs or just the programs overall? And that's a good question I can answer from a data perspective. Is you're counting all the individual instances of recurring programs exactly the same way you would count them in your annual report. So if you've got storytime series that goes for 8 weeks, you're counting that as 8. If you're doing copies of the exact same program, you're doing the same program, but 3 different times, different days, maybe different times, that's 3 different instances of a program. So you count that 3 times. And actually, when we get together on the 25th and Kim talks about her spreadsheet, I can maybe talk about my spreadsheet, but we're getting our spreadsheets to be more cohesive with each other. So if you're using the programming spreadsheet tool to track your programs, that will also help you with your summer reading answers as well. So you can benefit by using both at the same time. So
Yes.
Hopefully that helps.
And I did link to Maria's program and activity tracker in the directions for all of this. And again, we will encourage you all to please read those directions before doing anything. And so then, and Maria, I'd love to hear from you on this. I would say yes. April's question, if a program spans several age groups, do we pick one or do we count it in each age group? As a data person, what would you say, Maria?
So going back to the program spreadsheet, it's going to force you to pick one age because it's only one program. So you only get to count it once, otherwise you're kind of double dipping. So if you are using those 2 tools together, the program spreadsheet is going to answer a lot of these questions for you. And kind of going back to Kim's question, obviously some programs are going to span age groups, and it's just your best guess in terms of their target audience. Do you feel that your target audience for that particular program is 6 to 11? Or 0 to 5. So it's a judgment call for you guys. Just pick one or the other.
We will back up your judgment. And because we're going to dive deep into this at another point, I just want to show you that at the bottom of this, there is a space to enter the results from all of the patron surveys broken down by age. This can look frightening, but don't worry, Maria and I worked together really hard to make this as simple as possible, going so far as to having 3 separate spreadsheets, which also sounds terrifying, but it's not, I promise you. This is gonna be significantly easier than it appears. It is new, it is maybe a little scary, but I promise you that we've got your back. And again, we're not gonna take up too much time with this today because we have a day designated to this, but I just wanted to let you know that it is here. Feel free to go in there, poke in it, play around with it. If you mess something up, just delete what you have and download it again, and bring any questions that you might have on the 25th. You'll see we have some supplemental materials here to go along with that, as well as sort of the what, why, and how for the patron survey, which I also encourage you to read. Don't worry, it's all gonna work out. And so I'm gonna take us back to if I'm allowed, here we go. So back to our, what's this thing called? PowerPoint. And another one of those questions that were asked was sort of what are we going to do with this information? We're asking you to do all of this. Is the patron survey mandatory? Yes. Yes. Come back on the 25th and we'll dive deeper into it. And this is being recorded, so you're welcome to go back and sort of listen, and maybe some of those questions are answered for you, some of the specifics that you have, but it is. And then someone asked, what are we going to do with that information? So I'm actually gonna sort of take a step back and turn this over to Ashley and Maria, who worked on this flyer. This is a real thing that you can just go and download right now. To sort of explain a bit about what we want to do with this information. I'm also going to stop sharing just in case Maria or Ashley want to screen share and kind of show you some of this stuff on their
own. Awesome, thank you, Kim. Hello, everyone. I think it might be useful maybe just to screen share so you can see some of these, or I can put it in the chat too. Let me do that. So the flyer that Kim showed you is something that Maria and I came up with based on the annual report that we've been kind of referencing, and that Kim built the this year's summer reading survey on. And one of the things that I think is great about data is how we can use it to tell our story and tell the impact of our work. I should back up a little bit. So I joined DLD about 6 months ago, and so have kind of only just started to work with everyone at DLD to kind of keep thinking about how what information we collect, and then how can we use it to do different things. And so we had fact flyers before that looked a little bit different than the ones that Kim showed you. But we wanted to kind of think about what does a new design look like, a fresh design look like. And we did had a lot of conversations with people. So I think one of the things too we'd love to know is, is this kind of design or flyer useful as we're collecting this data? What can we do with it? Those flyers, what we do is you can go and see that sort of sample one that Kim shared, but we can actually produce those for each individual library that submits an annual report. So it would then be populated with Farmington Library's information, and then you could kind of make changes and update it for there. So what we'd like to do is create one that showcases the summer reading information. And I think thinking about what kind of icons, and probably it gets to be like a little bit more fun and colorful. Hopefully it's probably much more fun for me to make it that way with summer reading information. But I think the questions that we're asking this year, because about impact, are really going to be a great and maybe a slightly different way to tell the story than how many books kids read. So to be able to say and have a graphic that says, I felt really welcome at the library this year, and 90% of our respondents agree or strongly agree that they felt really welcome at the library this summer. That's a great story to tell. And I think the other thing that's great about that is that pairs really nicely with some of the sort of comments or testimonials or quotes that you get in a different way than it would pair with sort of, I read 37 books this summer. It doesn't mean as much when you hear it. So I'm really excited about the way that the survey has changed this year and what we can sort of do with that, and how we can use it to make flyers to sort of share some of that story. Maria, do you have more?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, do that.
So that we can kind of see what one of them looks like right now, and kind of get some ideas from people. So the flyer now talks about sort of numbers, right? It's the number of books in your collection, circulation. Up here on the right is all of this great stuff about programs. And I can really see us doing a very similar thing with summer reading, where we talk about the number of people who came to your programs, the number of programs and activities. But as Ashley was saying, all of that great input, I mean, the impact and the outcomes from it. But this section here that we've left for highlight and innovation, where we're leaving room on the page for you guys to adapt this and edit it in Publisher, and maybe put a photo in there, or grab one of those lovely anecdotes from your survey and drop it in there with a little pull quote. But some space on the form for you to personalize it and really make it applicable for your library. So looking at the data points we're going to be collecting, I can absolutely see wanting to include number of participants, number of programs, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But I really suspect the bulk of this is going to be that impact. I felt welcome. I learned something at the library. Those are such cool stories to tell.
Yeah.
Did we?
Does anyone, that was really great. And I had typed a message, and of course I know sometimes it takes time to type your questions, but please, if you have any questions, suggestions, if you're wondering, and I know we did put the link into the chat, if you're wondering, can your library do this right now? Can you right now reach out to Maria and or Ashley to get a Children in YA flyer populated so that you can start handing them out in your community? You absolutely can, especially with COVID, and sort of libraries kind of making themselves known, right? And we're sort of in a very unique position to say, like, maybe you didn't understand at one point in a very honest way, sort of what the library was. Like, maybe in a very honest way, someone really thought that everyone just went to Google or Amazon and got it all and did all the things they needed to do at school. with COVID, libraries are sort of taking a stand and saying, no, this is what we do. This is what you got from us. This is the impact numerically that we're having on our community. You can totally do that. Now, does it have to be, for Ashley and Maria, does it have to be a director that reaches out and asks for this? Or can the head of youth services reach out to you guys in an hour and say, can I have one, please?
Yes, anyone. I'm happy to make them.
Okay, awesome. And then, share it on social media and kind of all of that. So again, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. So if you wouldn't mind, Maria, stop sharing. I'd like to show everyone here what my plans are on a macro level, right? So Maria and Ashley showed you what you can do with that information today, tomorrow, next year. So I would like to show you what I hope to do for us as a state. So this here, and I probably shouldn't have shared it, done a screen share this way. This is an image from the, let me see if can you all see this? I just made it big, or no? Yeah, okay, awesome. I meant to do a whole screen, but I picked this. This is the 2020 statewide data that was compiled by the California Library Association, which is unfortunately also CLA, and it's all, as I've been sort of evaluating what they've been doing, my brain's been going on a loop. So what I would like to do is very similar to what they have done and collect the data and compile it into an infographic, a flyer, something that represents the summer reading, the impact of summer reading programs on the entire state of Connecticut. And again, that's why we're changing these questions. That's why we're not counting. I'm not asking for minutes, books, because it's different. I can't tell one story if all of my data points are coming from different directions. There has to be some cohesion in order for me to be able to tell one story instead of try to tell 191 of them. So ours will not look exactly like this, but I just wanted you to see the inspiration so that you can kind of see what we're leaning toward. Right now you're getting a lot of words, and I know that I'm a visual learner, and this was very helpful to me. I would like to direct, so again, I did not ask how many books were given. This was 2020, how many? We don't have all this yet, right? Like maybe we'll get there. Right now, we're sort of at a jumping off point. But to be able to say that 231,000 plus signed up for library summer reading programs, what information to give to IMLS when we're asking for money? Like, how amazing is that? 1.2 million views of 11,765 virtual programs. Goodness gracious. And 87% of children who participated in summer reading plan to return to Connecticut. See, I'm already doing it. And it doesn't help, if anyone doesn't know, I was born in Oakland, California, so my brain has been on a rampage as I've been looking at their stuff. Why can't I pull up the chat? For some reason, the chat's being finicky with me right now. It won't let me.
That happened to me when I was sharing my screen too, but we're just sharing some love.
Okay, fantastic. So what a magnanimous number to share. Oh, there it is, it's back now. And then down here, so these patron survey questions, right? I've told you that I want these patron surveys, but I haven't told you, what story we want to tell with them. And, California is able to say that 73% of teens and adults learned something from activities offered by the library during the summer. That's the story that I want to tell on behalf of Connecticut. I was like, where are we? Connecticut. That's the summer that I want to share for us when we're telling our story, right? Now remember, this is California's 5 states, 6 states in one. Like they're cheater, pumpkin eater, but that the percentages are great, right? So sometimes we get so caught up. I had someone tell me, you know, for their teen program this past summer, they only had 8 participants, and they felt kind of sad about that number. But then they said, you know, if they'd had the patron survey and they could report that 80% of their teens said that, who participated in summer, said that they learned something new. That's such a grand number, right? As opposed to like 8, but it's still true. Like, it's still this, like, the information that you're given that, or that's coming out of that is the same, but it's presented in a way that is just sort of easier to munch on and easier to chew on. So I don't think the person who asked that question was actually able to make it today. I think something came up and they weren't here. But I really want to hear from everyone. Does this help to explain why we have made the changes that we have made and what we at DLD as part of the Connecticut State Library want to do with this information? And sort of maybe in addition to that, is there something that we can do for you? You know, so we've sort of shown you the fact flyers and shown you what they look like right now. This is an idea of what this statewide version of that can look for with telling the state story. But is there something that y'all need that's a little bit different than what we've shown? Now, again, we are balancing 191 libraries, so we might not be able to sort of tick off everyone's boxes, but we can do our best to make this as simple and user-friendly as we can for you. I'm going to sort of wait because some folks might be typing, but I also can't remember what my next slide was, so I'm really, oh, nothing. So let's go ahead and stop screen sharing. We're here to take your questions. If someone needs to verbalize their question, I do know that sometimes I can't quite type the thing because I have to stutter through my question, and typed words become a little bit difficult. If you click participants and chat, I can't remember if it's one or I tend to click both. On your right side, you should see like a raise hand button. I can't see all of you on my screen right now, so go ahead and hit that raise hand, and then I can unmute you so that you can verbalize your question. We scheduled this Q&A so that we can answer as many of your questions as possible. I get a million of them, and I see that there's a lot of folks are asking the same questions. So we really just we want to set you up for success. We're making a lot of changes during a time where the world's going through a lot of changes. You know, we really want to make this as simple as possible. If Maria or Ashley, if there's something that either of you wanted to share or add or contribute, feel free to do so. But I'm also just going to sit and wait in case some of you are typing. Oh, how concerned are we about each patron only submitting one survey? Not super concerned, like not any more concerned than we have any control over, right? So to kind of put it into some perspective, we at DLD offer programs like this one here today, and then we ask you to submit a survey like we're going to do today. Some of you may answer that survey and then in 2 days forget that you answered it and answer it again. Some of you might not answer the survey at all because you didn't. So the idea of patron surveys is not new to DLD. We have been doing this for at least as long as I've been attending DLD programs, which has been 7 years, even though I've only been working here for a year and a half. So 7 years before the year and a half, right? So about 8.5 years. We know that we're not going to get everyone. The target that I think I've given is if everyone can, 100 total, like not 100 children, 100 adults, 100 teachers, 100 total. If you don't get that, you don't get that. If you do, great. If you get 500, give them to me. But we can't really control that. So, you know, that's one of those things where we kind of have to do what we can do. Okay, and another one. Has anyone asked their patrons if they're comfortable with in-person programming this summer, or only talking about data today? So, Wendy, the thing is, we can't really talk about that, right? So, Today, we're talking about summer reading questions that can be answered by the Connecticut State Library. So the conversation that you all have about whether your communities are going to do in-person programs, or maybe in-person but only outdoor programs, or maybe that's a conversation that you have to have amongst yourselves, because like we don't do programs like, like we don't have like really adorable 12-year-olds like coming in for book clubs. We don't have that up at the state. We also cannot make any decisions for whether that's safe for your community or not. So I really suggest reaching out to your nearest roundtable or your not nearest. There's like 8 for children and 8 for teens and a bunch for adults. And because they're virtual, you can tap into wherever, and maybe suggesting that as a topic for your next meeting, or posing the question on Goodnight Moon, which is super active, and sort of starting a conversation. But we at DLD have we got nothing. We have no say, because it's just not really our place.
My other thought with asking in the roundtables and Contact and Goodnight Moon and all those forums is everybody's like, oh no, nobody else has that question, it's just me. But literally there are dozens of people with the same question and nobody has asked it publicly yet. So if you're willing to be bold, or get your supervisor to be bold or somebody else to be bold and put the question out there for you and really try and drum up some discussion or some conversation about it, I think a lot of people will be grateful that you started that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I see your comment here, Heather. That's hilarious. Sometimes I never fill out the post office surveys, even though I go to the post office all the time. But I'm getting like I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm gonna start filling out those surveys because I get it. Okay, awesome. So when it's good, Joan. If a patron returns a survey midsummer, then wants to submit another at the end of the summer, is that okay? I would ask them if something has radically changed for them. Right, my first thought is like one is fine, but if the second half of summer reading is just a completely different experience for them than the first half, and they just need to let you know. First of all, that's information that you might want to know. What happened? What changed? Like, how did we get here? I would not encourage that, but if someone really comes to you and they just need to fill out that survey because something has changed, okay. Maria, as our data, because I'm learning from you while other people are learning from me. It's just a circle of life here. What do you have to say to that?
I like your point, Kim, that if it's that different, there's going to be something that you can learn from it that's going to help you. And I don't think 1 or 2 or 3, however many extra surveys is really going to skew your data. I think it's going to provide you with something anecdotal or something notable that is worth having, regardless of, 1 extra person. So go for it.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite show it for a long period of time, but at the bottom of that patron survey are spaces for that anecdotal information. And that is not the information that there's a space for in the spreadsheet. That's the kind of stuff that we encourage you to kind of send to us so that we can add them to our surveys. And again, this is the first time we're doing this on a large statewide level. Everyone, from me to the newest person, is going to learn something from this experience, and we might decide that we need to make a slight pivot for next year, and that's okay. We're all learning, and we're doing the best that we can, and we're all going to learn something from this, even if at the end of it it's what not to do. We're all going to learn something by the time this is okay.
And if I can jump in about that section with the anecdote or the story, if you've got a good one, please be sure you send that to us, because that is great fodder for our LSTA report. But also, we might make some little social media posts about summer reading program. Ashley's been doing this amazing suite of social media posts based on our annual report data, and I could totally see us coming out in the fall with something cumulative about how many percentage of summer reading participants said this, and then here's this great quote from somebody to really reinforce that point and bring it home. So we love stories and anecdotes and great comments and great quotes from people. So please send us those anytime you get them.
And I'm going to quickly answer Chrissy's question of, can we do sort of like a script or a write-up so that you all can explain to your patrons the importance of the patron write-up? What a great idea. Ashley, can we do that? Help. Ashley writes all of the stuff. Anytime you see like a big write-up that's super beautiful and she did that, including the newsletters you get that like people really like. I'm like, I just gave the info. I didn't remember. Ashley,
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Ashley, for helping. And you know, because we kind of had the entryway into what Maria was talking about, did you want to sort of go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, I can show a little bit about what some of our, can you all see that? Okay. So with, again, using the annual report data with Maria, we went and Maria does another report based on that data that pulls out kind of trends, again, looking at the whole state. And we decided it'd be really fun, especially since it was such a strange and different year for us all, to pull out some of these trends and show them visually. So throughout the month of March, we've kind of been releasing them on our Facebook and Twitter and social media and Instagram. And so you will see some of these. Maybe you've seen some of them already. But again, it's just a fun way to use this data. And I love Maria's idea. What we did not do with any of this is have nice, fun quotes to go with them all. But that would be a great thing to do, I think, for summer reading, especially if you're capturing that information in the surveys. So yeah, you can see, obviously, curbside, lots of us, almost all of us, 95% of us did curbside this year. So we obviously wanted to highlight that. Lots and lots of programs. But this just kind of gives you an idea. 81% increased Wi-Fi outside the buildings. This shows us as being open, even if our buildings were closed. I know we've been talking a lot about language in some of our circles. You know, looking at municipal appropriation. So again, this is the whole state data report, but there's some fun ways I think that we can visually, as well as sort of highlight some of this information as we go along. So I think I'm at the end, so that was 8 of them, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of, I think, what we can do and what I'm excited to play with the summer reading data.
And a couple of those posts feature sort of charts over time and statistics over time. And I'm really excited about what Kim is starting here, because once we start capturing this information, we can really get consistent, cohesive information from year to year, and then really start to see growth over time. That's what I'm really excited about tracking. You know, when everybody's doing pages and minutes and hours and whatever the other permutations are, as Kim said, it's hard to get a story, and it's hard to tell, you know, the full story and the full picture of what's happening in Connecticut. But if there's some consistency across libraries from year to year, we really get things that we can build on and show, you know, just as we do with the annual report data, how things are changing over time and getting better and growing, and, you know, more people are feeling welcome at your library. That's something I'm really looking forward to working with Kim and Ashley on.
Thank you, Maria. And you might see I put, if you are interested in sort of seeing what those things look like real time, you can typically find us at CSLDLD on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think it's the same for all of them. But again, I just sort of want to stress that we've migrated to these questions for a myriad of reasons, but like Maria was saying, one of them is consistency. I know that the last library that I worked at, when I went there, I changed the way that summer reading ran. But if our questions and things had been consistent, we still could have told a consistent story, instead of now we've got a whole different set of data points. It would be great if the state library could do this on television. Ooh! We need to be famous. It would be great if the state library could do PSAs on television with some of these cool facts. Yes, it would. Does anyone know anyone at Channel 8, 6, MSNBC Connecticut? Call me. I'm so ready to go on TV. Or the radio. Call me if you have a radio connection. But you're right. I hear so often, especially when it first happened, that we told people that I was like, I'm no longer going to collect number of books read. And the sort of response is, but my director wants to know that we did a thing. My board wants to know that we did a thing. Our first selectman wants to know that we did a thing. Absolutely, absolutely. And we don't want to diminish that, and we are 100% not pretending that doesn't. Continue to count your books, please. Continue to count your minutes, continue to count your pages, days. Please don't stop doing that. And in addition to that, to counting whatever you're counting, you are now going to be able to hand them a flyer for your town, hand them a flyer for Connecticut, and say 99% of children, teens, and adults learned something new at their library this summer. Tell me I can't have an extra $100 to buy more books, right? That's what we're trying to set you up for. And we're trying to do it in a way where we can be consistent across the state. We're down to about 2 minutes. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. If someone has a burning question that they've been like a little nervous to type into the whole group, feel free to send it to me privately and I will read it out without saying your name. But we really wanted to build a space today where we could kind of tackle any of those questions that you might have. Oh, I don't know if the sports channel really wants, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. We have a very viable sports section as well as lots of biographies. Call me, Maris. Call me. We'll see what we can do. But we really hope we were able to answer your questions today. Oh, I can't even see all the screens. I'm like, who's got a narwhal? I thought that said Maria, but I was reading your name and then I was looking very deeply in your background. Oh, you've gone on your own.
I typed that to everybody, but
Well, maybe we all want to know if there is a narwhal. Oh, and there's also a shark. So now we all have the answer to that. So again, this was recorded. Anyone, I know there were a few of you who sort of popped in partially through. This was recorded. You will be able to access the beginning of this. We touched on the reports and the new sort of reporting system. We will be doing a deep dive into that reporting system on the 25th, as well as the supplemental materials that we've created for you, as well as we'll be open to, you know, maybe you see this glaring thing that we've missed, right, that everyone can benefit from. We are 100% open to hearing what those things are. Please sign up on the 25th. If it looks like it's full, that's because I think we set it to 50, but we can handle up to 100 people. So we can extend the amount of people who can attend. We also will be recording that as well. So if you're not able to attend in person, don't worry. Yep, I got you, Joan. I gotcha. The 25th will be recorded and shared out on the listservs and posted on the LibGuide so that it can be accessed time and time again. So do not worry if you can't make it live. And you also don't have to sign up just to get the recording. We don't really do that. We just kind of send it out to the world on the listservs anyway. Ooh, oh, listen. All right, hold on. I'm copying this right now. I will absolutely ask. All they can say is no, thank you. And then we'll start our own radio station. We'll start our own podcast. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for wanting to know what we're doing. Thank you for showing up to the Q&A because I wasn't sure. All right, so it's 2 o'clock. I'm going to stop this recording and